Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Russ Jaffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. Right on cue, the Arkansas Razorbacks have landed yet another transfer portal addition. I even said it earlier today in my Kentucky video. It seems like every other day I'm talking about the Kentucky Wildcats or the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I wonder why. Both teams basically lost their entire rosters, so they need new players. Literally every single day, it seems like the Kentucky Wildcats or the Arkansas Razorbacks are landing a player. And today, both teams ended up landing a transfer portal player. But this transfer portal addition for the Arkansas Razorbacks has the potential to be their best transfer portal addition yet. Because Johnell Davis, the former Florida Atlantic guard, has committed to the Arkansas Razorbacks and John Calipari. I'm going to go over how massive of an addition Johnell Davis will be for Arkansas next season and how the roster for the Razorbacks is shaping up for next season. Now, I've talked about it length in my last few Arkansas videos with these updates that John Calipari was bringing in some of these five-star freshmen that were committed to the Kentucky Wildcats when he was still the head coach over there in Lexington. Now that he's come over to be the next head basketball coach of Arkansas, three of the players, and Billy Richmond, Boogie Flan, and Carter Knox, they have all followed John Calipari to Fayetteville. But you cannot just live on freshmen alone in college basketball. To have a great basketball team, you have to be able to bring in some really talented players through the transfer portal as well, or have guys that are returning from your past season's team. But you can't do that with Arkansas, though, because every player for the Razorbacks from this past season, they're all gone. Not one scholarship player is returning. So that's why John Calipari is having to get to work on the ground and be able to bring in some of these players. And the 3 5-star freshmen that came over from Kentucky, they're all going to be solid players for the Razorbacks next season. I believe that they all have the potential to be one and dones, and that's always been John Calipari's signature recruiting style. But I do believe that the bigger additions that he has made are in the transfer portal so far, especially with Jonas Adu, the Tennessee transfer that I talked about yesterday. That's a big addition for Arkansas because Jonas Adu, he is an experienced player in college basketball. He has had success in the NCAA tournament with the Volunteers, and he still has room to grow as a basketball player. He still has untapped potential, and I think he's going to be the starting center for Arkansas next season. Big Z is also coming over from Kentucky as well. He's a guy that still has a lot of potential. He is very raw. Even though he was a highly ranked player coming out of high school, he was a player that you knew was kind of going to be a project. It was going to take him time to be able to develop in college basketball, and he believes in John Calipari enough that even when Calipari left for Arkansas, he decided to follow him. He should be able to have a bigger role at Arkansas next season and could end up improving. But Johnell Davis is by far the best addition they brought in through the transfer portal, and he's probably the most important player that they brought in so far, even more than those 5-star freshmen, because Johnell Davis is the real deal. CBS has him ranked as the #1 player in the transfer portal. Obviously, other services have other players ranked at the top of the portal, but it does not matter whether you think he's a top 3 player in the portal, a top 5 player, or the #1 player. Johnell Davis is legitimately one of the better guards in college basketball. I know he was at a smaller school at Florida Atlantic, but he is a bucket getter. He's a fantastic shooter, and his shooting percentages are great all across the board. And he's a winner because he was able to lead Florida Atlantic all the way to the Final Four with Dusty May at head coach 2 years ago. Yes, we know Florida Atlantic was literally one play away from losing to Memphis in the round of 64, but still, Florida Atlantic ended up winning that game, and the rest is history. And they made that awesome Cinderella run. And another thing about Johnell Davis that's great as well is that he is not a small player. He is 6'4". Usually scoring guards from smaller schools are like 6 foot, 6'1", but Johnell Davis has great positional size at 6'4", so I think he's going to be able to translate a lot of his success over to the SEC. And he shot 41% from 3 this past season at Florida Atlantic. And the year before that, he shot 36% from 3. So he actually has improved his three-point shooting over time in college basketball. His free throw shooting is at 86%. So that's going to be great for Arkansas because because it's always good to have great free throw shooters on your basketball team. John Calipari has always been known when bringing in those five-star freshmen like Tyler Hero, Emmanuel Quickly, Jamal Murray. They've always been great free throw shooters. So Johnell Davis, he fits that bill. And for a 6'4" guard, him shooting 48% from the field is very impressive as well. I know it was at Florida Atlantic. It's a smaller school and an easier conference, but to shoot the ball that well from the field is very impressive at no matter what level. And he averaged 18 points per game this past season and 6 rebounds and 3 assists. And ironically, he had a better season this past year when Florida Atlantic did not make a deep run in the NCAA tournament than he did the year that they did make the deep run. So he's gotten better every single season in college basketball. And I just believe that his veteran leadership is going to be key for Arkansas next season. I've been hammering it home the last few videos that the Razorbacks need experience. They have to be able to bring in some guys that have played many years in college basketball. They have a lot of experience. They have NCAA tournament experience. And I think John Calipari is realizing that the last few years that he was at Kentucky and he was bringing in all these five-star freshmen, yes, some of the players that he brought in did not pan out, but usually when he would bring in talented recruiting classes every year, they would always make deep runs. But college basketball is changing a little bit with NIL and the portal. A lot of teams are more competitive now because guys are staying in college basketball for 2, 3, and 4 seasons, and more teams are good as well. So that's made it harder for Kentucky to make those deep runs. John Calipari's going to Arkansas, and maybe he's learning from his mistakes that, yes, he cannot just recruit five-star freshmen. It could be just because of necessity this season that he's having to bring in so many portal players, but I think Calipari needs to continue to do that in the future because winning teams, they're utilizing the portal and they're building a culture, and it's the most important thing to be able to get guys and they stay at your school for multiple seasons. We'll have to see if John Calipari can have that happen in Arkansas because with Dan Hurley at UConn, he's got the right mix of transfers coming in, guys that have returned from the previous season, and also five-star freshmen as well that go off to the NBA. That seems to be the formula right now, and even though it's going to be tough for Arkansas to mesh all this talent together, if it had just been Kentucky players coming over to Arkansas, all those five-star freshmen, and that's about all that John Calipari had, and maybe a couple portal players, I don't think they would have had a lot of success. But Arkansas is bringing in the right players so far. Jonas Adu is going to be one of the better centers in the SEC next season, coming over from the Tennessee Volunteers, going up against his former team. That's a massive loss for the Volunteers, a great game for Arkansas. Johnell Davis coming over from Florida Atlantic. He's a guy that now at this stage in his career, he is ready to showcase his skills at a bigger level. It's one of the best things about the portal these days is that it gives guys an opportunity when they've been playing at a smaller school for a few seasons, and once they're playing very well, to be able to transfer up to a bigger school, something that you really didn't have before this portal era. So Johnell Davis is taking advantage of that, and in his final season in college basketball, he's going to try to showcase all of his skills at Arkansas and be able to be a veteran leader for a bunch of these younger guys as well that Arkansas is bringing in, those former Kentucky commits, and Big Z as well. We'll have to see what he can do, but Arkansas's got a lot more roster spots to fill. But John Calipari, he's bringing in some of the best players in the transfer portal so far, and Johnell Davis is the biggest one yet, and it's big for Arkansas that he could not go to Michigan, because if Johnell Davis had been able to go to Michigan and follow Dusty May, it would have been great for the Wolverines, but he could not get in because of the academics, so now he's getting to go to Arkansas, and I think he's going to have a big role on Arkansas's team next season, and if the Razorbacks bring in a few more talented players to the portal, they could end up having a really great team in John Calipari's first season in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the Arkansas Razorbacks continuing to bring in talented players either through the high school ranks or the transfer portal, and how well you think that John Calipari has done so far bringing in talented players to the Arkansas Razorbacks for next season, and how well you think Johnell Davis will play next season for the Razorbacks. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.